Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Awaken Sunday Live Q&A right here on the Awaken the World YouTube channel. Today, of course, Sunday, February 17th, and it is 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today, we will be revisiting love, defining love, self-love, compassion, and of course, dealing with the issue of the mind. Jennifer, how are you doing? I think I had commented on another one of my videos that we have missed you and we're curious how you are. Kim, nice to see you. And Terry, so nice to see you as well. And of course, we hold all of you in our hearts all the time. We really do, you know. And I got to tell you a little story. And this is to give you that feeling of hope when you think all things are hopeless, okay? And we all feel that every once in a while. But I was a guy who used to enjoy killing people. I was a guy who would run you off the road and rip you out of your car for cutting me off. That's the sort of person I used to be. The growth that is possible in a single lifetime is clearly infinite. Because man, I understand, of course, now, I didn't like myself back then. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's hope for us all, okay? I mean, really, if I can come that far, and if I can die with a hate-on for God, and the intent to somehow kill God when I get to the afterlife, and receive nothing but love and compassion, you're all free. You all have nothing to worry about, trust me. And you know what it really comes down to is that the love is a much better place to exist in. You know, it constantly puts a smile on my face. I've been spending all morning with the birds today. So many birds outside, and robins, and when we came home from a little run to the store this morning, the robins were in the carport trying to find where I had hid the food. And it's beautiful, it really is. So it is time to get down to business, and let's get down to it. So we want to be very clear about love, and this is the most misunderstood subject on our planet. And again, let's be crystal clear. This is from my experience. I am not asking you to put me on a pulpit anywhere, nor to buy what I say as your own without listening to what resonates within you, without having your own experiences. But what I have found is this. The egoic mind, the mind at the thought level, is completely incapable of love. It has a million shades of things that resemble parts of love, parts of what we have seen come out of love. But the egoic mind and what happens at a thought level isn't love. Now, before a lot of people get upset or click it off, and that's okay too, I still love you. Let's be very, very, very clear about what love is. Every time that you move yourself, your concept of I, out of the way, you can feel something. That feeling, when it is not in motion, you would call life itself, or the ground state of your being. That is love. Now, this love, unlike what the mind produces, arises as a force, a tide within us. And quite beyond the level of thought, we find ourselves overwhelmed by this feeling. And then it pours out into our physical existence, and we find ourselves taking action before the thought. The mind and the thoughts tend to catch up after the fact. We've all had these experiences, and how do we know it? You know, we talk about words like, well, it's natural, or it's automatic, or it's instinctual. Those are words we use to describe the things that happened outside of the mind, outside of the realm of thought. The truth of our being, the truth of our existence is this love itself. That is what we are. That is why you are whole and complete, no matter where you sit or stand today. What blocks that love, what confuses that love, is the egoic mind and our attachment to our concept of I. Now, in order to understand love a little more deeply, we have to understand what's really going on with the mind and how things operate. So, because of your conditioning, which includes everything from your upbringing to what you learned in school, to what your parents taught you, to all of your experiences, judged good, bad, or indifferently, everything up until this point, all of that is what you would call your sense of I. At an unconscious level, at a level of being asleep and unaware, as the vast majority of our species still are, and yet we are waking up. We are always waking up. We are at the whim of those three vibrational states, the lower survival vibration, the upwards and mobile energetic vibration, and then, of course, our highest, most rarefied sattvic vibrations, the vibrations most in tune with spirit and the truth of the love that we are. We, as energetic beings, are literally taking a combination of those three different parts of the energetic spectrum and expressing what is literally feeding us from the whole of ego. Our vibrational state is tuning us into that thought stream. And we pull those thoughts in, and then we color them through our past experience in relation to those thoughts. And then, just like a book, when we're reading, we read the thoughts out loud in our own head. And because we hear the voice in our head reading the thoughts and we recognize the voice, we buy into that. We buy into the idea that that is us. Those are our thoughts. Funny. You don't buy into the fact that the words you're reading on the page are your words, even though you hear the same voice in your head speaking the words. So by learning to separate and make space between what you are, which is the awareness, and the love that is aware of the experience and aware of the noise, aware of the thoughts, aware of the voice, you make this space. And in that space, the love that you are is available to you all the time. And Debbie is here. Debbie, so nice to see you. Really is. Wonderful to see you. Much love to you today. So, when we talk about head love, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about all the approximations of the experiences that we've had of love, of what we've been told love is. And a lot of this starts off as dysfunctional or conditional, right? Your parents love you when you're doing what you want. They don't love you when you're not doing what they want, or it doesn't appear they do. The partner that loves you today hates you tomorrow because somehow you didn't know what you were supposed to provide to them that they thought they were missing. We all know these stories. And we spend all this time trying to define love at a head level. And quite honestly, that's a total waste of time. At a head level, at the level of love through the head, we're talking about egoic love. Egoic love will always be looking for something. It's always acting out of itself. Now, this isn't judgment. This isn't bad. This isn't good. It simply is. There are lots of people out there today acting out of head love, doing amazing, wonderful things. But what we're really talking about here is understanding where the love that we want to feel all the time resides. And the head is always looking without. It's never going within, and because of that, it's always going without. We all know this experience. You have a friend and you send them a really nice gift. And a lot of times that expectation at the head level, at the level of ego, is quite silent. You may not even be consciously aware of the expectation existing in your mind. And a month goes by and you haven't heard from that friend about the expensive gift that you bought. This is just one small little example about what happens at head love. And like I said, it's not to blame. People are a product of the past. If you've been brought up and everything that you've come to know of love at the level of the head, at the level of the mind, of thought, has been dysfunctional and has led to your suffering, it's no wonder that people say, well, sometimes love makes you suffer. That's a lie. Real love is the absence of all suffering. Because once all suffering is gone, the I is no longer there. Take the suffering away or take the I out of the way, the effect is the same. The suffering disappears, and what you're left with is the truth of what you are. That love of all creation. All the love, all the joy, all the peace, all the tranquility is what you are. You are what you seek. And when we go seeking for it, we fall into that trap. Because, of course, to go seeking is to start from a place of not having, of not perceiving it within your existence. This is where head love can never fulfill us. Head love includes the wanting of another because you somehow feel you need them in some way, that they're giving you something you don't have. All you're giving them is your power. And you're going to get back disappointment sooner or later. At the level of the mind, all love will lead to suffering sooner or later. Why? Because we're talking about physical versions of it. Reflections of it. Reflections that are sullied and dirtied by misperceptions about our existence and our past experiences around them. And then we try to pass these on to others as well. Unconsciously. It's not a fault thing. The hardest thing to realize is someone may be loving you as they're whipping you. I mean, that was the case with my mother. She was beating me with a skipping rope one day, and she told me that the reason why she did it is because she loved me so much. It's no wonder that I started off life with a little bit of a twisted view about what love really meant. Luckily, there's always people there to show you different. So when we talk about heart love, what we're really talking about is the love with the sense of I out of the way. The love that you naturally are. And the one thing about love, like I said, the same with joy, these are emotions. And we rarely feel emotions when we're at the mind level. We have lots of feelings. And all those feelings are based on thought. But the true emotions, love and joy, oneness, they arise from within you. Why? Because they're energy in motion. That's why we call them emotion. And that energy is not something that descends upon you. You know, Kelly and I were talking about this the other day during the Valentine's Eve meditation. As I said to her after the meditation, you know, if I was still Christian, I would have said the Holy Spirit had descended upon me. But I know better now. The Holy Spirit didn't descend upon me. I moved out of the way enough for the Spirit that I am to ascend and rise from the depths of my being. Debbie says, are we not social creatures? Do we really need nothing from others? And here's the deal. We are social creatures. Okay? It's the attachment that's the problem. We do not need anything from others in terms of who and what we are and our abilities here. But we certainly need things from each other's at a physical level. The issue, Debbie, is always in the attachment. I personally love spending time in conversation with like-minded people. But I love no less the time in solitude. I walk between the two, knowing always that to love to spend time with people means I must also love the solitude. And this is the big hint about life. And all of these things that we're talking about come down to that yin and yang picture again. Debbie, pay very close attention to this. The yin and yang is contained within the circle representing eternity. In other words, everything in this physical world, since the birth of the physical world until the end of the physical world, within that eternal circle will always have to consist of those two energies. The tamasic or dark energy, again a word, and the sattvic or light energy, again a word. We are reminded that neither one of them is pure on its own, that each has the other within it. We are also shown our existence, the narrow path that winds through the space between the two. On that path, you equally welcome isolation as you equally welcome the guests to speak to. On that path, in full acceptance of what is, you welcome the lover and you welcome the lack of a lover in your life. It isn't a choice. And that's where we get so messed up. See, every time we want just the good and aren't willing to take the bad or realize that the bad lays in it, and again, we're talking about our judgments because that's what this is all about. When we're not with others, we judge that we are feeling lonely and that we wish to be with others. That is a form of attachment. When we relax into life, when we accept what is, we are equally joyful when we're with others as we are in solitude. It is perfectly okay to desire to spend time with others. The issue comes in when it becomes need. Because need means you're reaching outside of yourself for something you're perceiving you're lacking. Neither one are good nor bad, but you reap the results of both. No matter which one we pick, we reap the results of both sides of it. There are times when the solitude appears to be too much. That's one of the risks on the trail. There are times when the company can appear to be too much. I've had those times many. That's another risk on the trail. Everything is about being willing to open yourself to both sides. Why? Because both sides are inherent in everything. The friend that you love spending time with today may turn on you tomorrow when they find out that you're dating their old boyfriend. And we're trying to keep it quiet. You know what I mean. Acceptance of what is allows you to want to have company with others, but be perfectly okay when there is no company. So where do things get twisted on us? Well, things get twisted, of course, within the mind, thanks to all our past experiences. You know, we've been brought up and we've been taught that this is what love represents. This is what compassion represents. And how do we untwist that programming? One of the things I said to Kelly when she met me is well, how do you know when it's the right time to help somebody? And I said, well, you can apply this to everything in life. It is the right time when you're not thinking. It's the right time when you are impelled, when you feel yourself being motivated from within, and you realize your thoughts aren't really keeping up with what's going on, and yet there you are doing what's needed to be done. You untwist what has been twisted by realizing that everything that you need, you already are. You truly are. It's right there within you. It's covered up by this false identification, this false idea that you are the sum of your experiences and nothing more, that things that happen to you are somehow your fault. Love becomes untwisted when you realize that anything that you ever think has been done to you is totally impersonal. If you would have taken you out of there and planted someone else into the situation, the same thing would have occurred. What does that mean? It wasn't about you. What happened to you was about the person who you feel perpetrated it against you. It was about what was going on with them. Because if you took yourself out of the picture and put anyone else back in there, the same thing would be going on. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. Really close to home. Yeah, and you know, Debbie, wherever you are, Debbie says she's not perfectly okay with company at the moment. don't ever judge where you're at, okay? Where you're at is perfect. Where you're at offers the opportunity for growth. But we always think we can get away with just the good. You know, we want to eat the bag of cookies, but we don't want the tight belt. We want to spend all day out in the sunshine, but we don't want the empty pocketbook or the skin cancer. Speaking from experience. And exactly. Someone's company today that you had such a good time with, the next time you have company with them, it can be miserable. So when we remain open to what is and we accept whatever comes in life as being the best thing for us, life just begins to flow naturally. You stop with the shoulds, you stop with the should nots, and believe it or not, the love that you are begins to fill you. Why? Because the vast amount of your thought every day is caught up and around the past and comparisons with the present, and a lot of talk about what should and should not be. So how do we understand compassion then? You know, compassion has a bad rap. It really does. Again, it's just a word. We're trying to put experience, which is always fleeting and always personal, into words which are frozen and subject to misinterpretation and misunderstanding and misreading. Kelly's looking strangely at me, and now she's shaking her head and smiling. Oh, I see. The cat is on her lap, and it does look very cute. But her hands are tied. So Kelly's trying to let me know that the reason she's not saying anything is that the cat is sitting on both her hands right now and is refusing to move. But let us talk about compassion for a minute, okay? Yeah, fear of the future, how long will it be like this? Well, that also comes back to refusing the present moment, right? Not accepting the present moment as it is, Debbie. Whenever we resist what currently is, we're the ones who feel bad. We're pushing up against what exists. And that is a type of insanity that ego participates in. And don't worry, we all do it. What already exists is here right now. Acceptance is really the only thing we can do. When we accept it, we can then find out why it's still here. Look at the puzzle. And of course, the puzzle always leads us to turn back within. So there was an example of compassion right there. You know, Debbie, if Debbie was a very good friend of mine, and Debbie, you are a very good friend of mine, okay? I think of you like my sister, a sister whom I love. When Debbie comes to me and says, I need to be with other people, am I the type of friend who acts out of real compassion? What is real compassion? Well, to me, compassion is the honest desire to end the perception of suffering in others because I am aware of the very fact that I have been exactly where you have been. Even if I can't remember it, even if it wasn't in this life, I am aware that I have been exactly where you are right now in your life. I remember the way it felt. I remember the confusion. I remember the narrow viewpoints. I remember how much I was in my head. And to me, honest compassion is wanting to free you from that suffering and help you awaken. So if my good friend Debbie is talking to me about how she needs to be with people, does a good friend out of compassion set Debbie up with a guy I know who's also been complaining about needing to be with someone? Am I showing compassion to Debbie by doing that? Or am I enabling an increase in suffering? Because if you put one person who's feeling a little codependent with another person who's feeling a little codependent, you usually get a codependent relationship. And we all know where those go, don't we? So what would be compassion? Compassion would be sitting down with Debbie and saying, Debbie, you don't truly need anybody. Everything you have is within you. Work on your wholeness first, so that you have all your power and all your personal strength back. And then desire to share that with someone just like yourself. And Terry, you're absolutely hit the nail on the head. To set Debbie up with a guy I know who's also needing someone would be enabling. It would be enabling the cycle of pain to continue, the cycle of suffering to continue. Now, this can appear kind of harsh sometimes. And it relates back to love. You see, love at the head level is more worried about what the person is going to think of me than it is worried about whether I'm doing the right thing for them. And when I say right thing, I'm using a word convention here, okay? Because whatever we're going to do is what we're going to do, and it's going to have results. So let's say I'm a parent and I have a child who's already 50 pounds overweight at the age of 10. And my love for them has been feeding them as much food as they want, whenever they want, and whatever they want. If I wake up enough to realize what's happening, what do I do out of compassion? What do I do out of the space of loving them? The first thing you have to do is stop worrying about what they're going to think. Because if you honestly love them, it's not about what they're going to think. Love is really about you. What are you going to be? So you choose to limit that child's diet. Why? Because you do not want to enable the behavior to continue. And out of a deep compassion and sense of love for them, you want to give them the best opportunity to live the life they can. Compassion is always a recognition of yourself in another. And it can begin with the knowledge that when you perceive someone whose level of consciousness is below yours, they're still wallowing and struggling, that you have been exactly where they have been and have the opportunity to serve them compassionately and lovingly to move beyond it. You know, one of the best things that I think helps with this is literally seeing another as a younger version of yourself. And asking yourself, knowing what I know today, what would I tell myself right now to serve myself the best? Compassioning does not cover damnation, and we want to be careful with this, okay? Because a lot of times we get mad at the people that we love, and we claim the reason why we get mad at them is because we love them. True love does not know what anger is. Love that results in anger is love of the mind, and it is imperfect. Again, this isn't about blame, but it is about responsibility. It's recognizing that if we truly love someone, we're not going to judge what they do. We're going to love them. Sometimes two or more is better than one. Chores, especially to fix something, men printers alone. Yeah, that's absolutely true. In our physical existence, two makes things a lot easier. It really does. And if you can get together thousands of people, like in communes, it's even better still. And here's where we have to keep the distinction, okay? On the one hand, we're talking about physical living, the day-to-day tasks that we find ourselves within our cultures. You know, here we have things like lawns and printers. If you were living in a farming area, you would have tractors and farm equipment. The physical world is not really what we're dealing with here, because the physical world is a manifestation of what's going on within us. What we're talking about is our state of being, which is manufacturing the physical world. And yeah, going on YouTube to learn how to fix things, I do a lot of that. I really do. But what we're really talking about here is the self-sufficiency within, which is really separate from the self-sufficiency without. We tend to link the two of them together all the time. We really do. But the self-sufficiency without is a product of the self-sufficiency that we've developed within. And Debbie, I can promise you this. Stick with this. Try to surrender and let go. Try to realize and see that you are so complete and so whole and so capable. And in that, the shining light of the love that you are begins to spill out. And that love will attract the right person for you. The person who sees your wholeness and sees the love brimming out of you and is drawn with a desire to share in that wholeness. Not to try and take a piece of you for themselves or to hand a piece of them to you. And in the meantime, yes, you're going to have to fix that printer. And if you run into troubles, you can always call me and I'll help you out. I really will. I'm pretty good with that sort of stuff. So what do we move on to? We move on to the biggest issue of all, and this encompasses love and compassion and the reasons why it all goes sideways in our heads. Self-love. Loving the self, our little concept of ourselves, that egoic concept of ourselves, via the self, our higher self. You see, we go around every day feeling that that love is not present, never understanding that we are that which we seek, and the reason we're not feeling it present is because we're getting in the way of it with the lies we're telling ourselves. Self-love begins with acceptance of wherever you are right here, right now. No more getting frustrated with yourself. That's ego fighting ego. It's a survival reflex. You know, I hate the word battle, but battle is the only word that works. You are fighting a battle. And the reason it's a battle is the ego is stuck onto you like that alien creature stuck to the guy's face in the Alien movie with Sigourney Weaver, okay? And you're pulling at those little feet and you're trying to pry them off, and every time you let go, it's right back on your face. It is a battle. It's a battle to pull that ego off your face so the light that you are shines through bright and unimpeded. In loving yourself, in understanding and beginning to allow yourself to love yourself. And you have to begin at the level of the mind because that's what you have right now. And this is what bothers me about a lot of spiritual teachers. They'll tell you to go beyond the mind. Sounds easy. Meditation helps. It truly does. That's why we do lots of it. But we have to begin somewhere. And we have to begin with what we have right now, where we're at right now. What, Terry? You got that thing stuck to your face too? Apparently Debbie is the thing stuck to my face. Okay, you're just going to have to accept that. Acceptance. Remember, we're talking about acceptance. Self-love begins with acceptance. Acceptance with whatever you're at right now, no matter where you're at. If you're crying tears, sitting on the toilet in the bathroom with a glass of whiskey, accept it. That's where you're at right now. All of life has to be treated in this way. Whatever that comes to us, the very first thing we have to do is accept it. Why? Because it's happening. The things that came before that resulted in whatever's right in front of our face right now that's driving us nuts? No opinion. The things that occurred prior to the manifestation, because remember, everything that's happening right now is a product of before. The world's a giant leftover. It really is. The whole of the planet is like a leftover Twinkie. All the thoughts, words, and deeds before this moment of now have created what's here right now. They're artifacts. They're remnants. They're leftover Twinkies. We don't have to keep taking a bite. And unlike a Twinkie, which apparently will last for eternity, everything else around us will crumble all by itself when we take our attention off of it. Self-love begins with acceptance of what is and where you are at right here, right now. The understanding that you are not doing anything wrong. That you are not getting this. That you are not less than you need to be. That you are exactly what you need to be right in this minute. You couldn't be more perfect right now. There's nothing more that you could be right now. This is the truth. I'm not saying this to make you feel better. This is reality. Wherever you are is always offering you a door to a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of thinking, a higher level of awareness. This is why you need to be patient with yourself. You see, so many of us have been programmed for so long that we're weak and that we're powerless, and we need others to complete us and make us feel like we are whole. That is the biggest lie. It causes us to seek outside of ourselves for objects. It causes us to sacrifice who we are in order to get something we think we want. Surrender. Surrender and acceptance go hand in hand. You know, I would really invite you to try an experiment. And I got to tell you, I was the biggest control freak on the planet. Not only did I want to control every aspect of myself, if you were within spitting distance of me, I was going to control every aspect of you so you wouldn't do anything that got in the way of how I wanted everything to be. And if you didn't like it, you might meet me at 3 a.m. in the morning with a big knife. That was the type of person I was. That's the way I was. When I let go of all of it, when I surrendered every thought I had about the way things should be, Terry, it's the truth. I was a dyed-in-the-wool killer back in the day. The only thing that's kept me out of jail is the fact that I was legally doing it. Really. Once I surrendered everything, once I gave up all the things I thought life should be about, once I gave up all the things that I believed shouldn't be, Debbie, I will do another meditation. We will do that tomorrow. We will do a meditation tomorrow, and we'll fit it in the morning so that you can see it tomorrow in the day. And that is not a problem at all. Always will do whatever it is needed. In total acceptance of what is, in total surrender to life, in giving up all desires except the desire to know thyself fully, life has brought me beyond what I could desire. And we're not talking about the physical desires. We're talking about the desires that truly fulfill you. The desire to serve others. And the gifts that come out of life when you open yourself. When you say, that's it. I've tried for so long. I give up. I let go. And let God. Let creation have it. Because you're not what you think you are. And if right now in your existence you're having a hard time with the concept that you're not the voice in your head, if you're having a hard time grasping that you are that magnificent awareness, that giant love behind that, that's okay. Just let it all go. Give it all up. You know, life will keep swinging that baseball bat at you out of love, because life doesn't want you to suffer either. Life knows your suffering is caused by your misperceptions. And everything life does is designed to show you how truly powerful and magnificent and special you are and needed. Needed for all of humanity's growth. Let it all go. The surrender experiment comes to mind. Do you remember the name of the author? We're going to find the name of the author and we're going to comment it on the video comments here. Get a hold of a copy of The Surrender Experiment. A story about a guy who did exactly that, and he had an amazing life. He just said, okay, whatever comes is what comes. No judgment, no shoulds, no should nots. He woke up one day in the morning and there was someone building a house on his land down below his house, on his land. Normally that would drive us insane. He surrendered to it. He accepted what was, and he went and he got his apron and he went down to help build the house. The rest of the book you have to read. When we surrender to life, when we truly give in, the mind becomes silent. That which you think you're looking for externally begins to appear more and more regularly from within. Love yourself first. Care more about the way you're thinking. Care more about paying attention to the way you're feeling as an indicator of where your thinking is. And love every aspect of you. even the points that you would judge as not good enough. I do hope this video serves. I really do. I've seen a lot of people struggling with this the last couple of weeks, and it pulls at my heart. It really does. You are all so magnificent. Every single one of you. And the more you get in line with that in your thought processes, the more rarefied your vibration comes, the higher and higher thoughts you begin to find in that stream. And of course, it serves all of us. Because indeed, we are all awakening together, not individually, but as one magnificent whole. It appears Kelly has her fingers back, which means the cat has left, and that's it. That's all. Much love to you today. Look forward to a meditation tomorrow on the Awaken the World page on Facebook. We will do a fantastic meditation around letting go. Have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. And again, all our love.